Hello, and welcome to the Marvelous Designer Asset Creation course. This time, we will make a school bag. First, we will load the avatar in the library to create the size of the bag based on the avatar. After putting the basic shirt and pants into an auto-fitting suit, we will start making the bag. Move all the clothing patterns in the 2D pattern window to the side. After selecting Rectangle in the Pattern Shape tool group, create a half rectangle pattern with an appropriate size to match the avatar's shadow in the 2D pattern window. Using the Smooth Curve tool in the Edit Pattern window, select the upper right segment point and drag it to make it round. After clicking Add Point Split Line tool in the Edit Pattern window, right-clicking on the segment line will display the Split Line option window. In the Options window, change Uniform Split to 4 and click the OK button to divide it into 3 segment points. With the added segment point selected, right-click and click Convert to Curve Point to change it to a curve point. Select the middle segment line, right-click with the mouse and click Unfold to unfold the pattern into one. Select a pattern in the 3D window and send it to the back of the avatar using the gizmo. After selecting the pattern with the Transform Pattern tool, right-click the mouse to copy the pattern, then right-click the mouse again and click Paste to duplicate the same pattern. After selecting an existing pattern, right-click and click Flip horizontally to flip the face. Right-click the mouse again, select Freeze and freeze the pattern. Move the duplicated pattern backwards using the gizmo. Select Free Sewing in the Sewing tool group, then sew the pattern to attach the two patterns. Press the spacebar on the keyboard to run simulation. Select the Edit Pattern tool and first delete unnecessary segment points at the bottom by pressing the Delete key. After checking the length of the segment line at the bottom with the Edit Pattern tool, select the rectangle in the Pattern Shape group and enter the same numerical value to create a pattern that will be the bottom of the bag. In the same way, select the Edit Pattern tool, then select all segment lines while holding down the Shift key. Check the length and create a long square pattern that will become the side of the backpack. First, we will organize the created patterns in the 2D window. Select the 3 patterns to be attached and use the gizmo to move them to the bag. Position the patterns close to the edges where they will be sewn. Select Free Sewing and sew each piece at the appropriate location along the segment line. Check the sewing status in the 3D window to make sure the sewing direction is correct. Select the frozen pattern, right-click, copy, right-click again, select Paste, and duplicate the pattern. This pattern is what will be the front of the bag, so right-click the mouse, select Unfreeze, and then attach it using the Free Sewing tool. Select all the patterns, right-click, and apply Strengthen. Press the spacebar on the keyboard to simulate. Select all patterns except the frozen pattern. Change the pressure value in the property editor window to 1 and simulate again. This will slightly puff out the bag, giving it a nice shape. Now let's create the pocket attached to the side of the bag. Select Edit Pattern, hold down the Shift key, and select the edges of the segment lines on both sides of the pattern, which are the sides of the bag. Right-click and select Offset as internal line. Set distance to 180. Right-click on the created internal line and use Cut and Sew to cut and attach it at the same time. You can see that the pattern has been cut. Select the pattern with the Transform Pattern tool, right-click and press Copy, right-click again and press Paste to duplicate the pattern. Move the created pocket pattern to where you want to attach it using the gizmo in the 3D window. Select the upper segment line with the Edit Pattern tool and increase its length. After selecting the left segment point and segment line by dragging them at the same time, press the right arrow button on the keyboard once to shorten it by 10 millimeters. Each time you press the arrow key on the keyboard, it decreases by 10 millimeters. Select the other 3 segment lines, right-click, and click Offset Pattern Outline. In the Options window, set the distance value to 20 and set the side segment type to Unfilled Corner. After selecting unnecessary segment points, delete them with the Delete key. Now let's attach the pattern using free sewing. A blue dot appears to indicate the sewing length. Sew it up to the dot to keep the sewing line the same size. Create an internal line by selecting the left segment line with the Edit Pattern tool, then right-click and click Offset as internal line. Set it to 20 millimeters. Click Elastic in the Property Editor window. Adjust the ratio value to 50. Apply elastic in the same way to the segment line. Change the ratio value to 50. Select the pattern with the Transform Pattern tool, right-click and apply Strengthen, then press the spacebar to simulate. Right-click in the 3D window and click Unstrengthen. Change the particle distance value in the Property Editor window from 20 to 5 and simulate. In the Property Editor window, change the additional thickness rendering value to 2 to set the thickness of the pocket. Change the pressure value to 0. To check the thickness, we will change the view mode to Thick Textured Surface. To make the opposite pocket the same, select the pattern with the Transform Pattern tool, right-click and copy it. This time, we will duplicate it with mirror paste and create it on the other side. Attach the pattern using the free sewing tool. Select the pattern, right-click, apply Strengthen, and then simulate. Right-click in the 3D window and click Unstrengthen. After confirming that all patterns are attached, select the internal lines of the pocket using the Edit Pattern tool. Right-click and select Cut and Sew. Simulate again to check. Now we will create the pockets, pocket covers, and zipper parts visible on the front of the bag. Select the Edit Pattern tool, click the segment line at the bottom, right-click, and enter the desired numerical value as offset as internal line. Change distance to 70. Right-click on the inner line just created and press the Cut and Sew button. Select segment line of the cut part, right-click and enter 160. Right-click and select Cut and Sew. For the zipper, select the segment line of the cut part, right-click, select Offset as internal line, and set it to 40. Right-click and cut and sew. To create the cover part of the zipper, select the pattern with the Transform Pattern tool. Right-click, select Copy, then right-click again to duplicate the same pattern with Paste. In the 3D window, place the pattern next to the front of the bag. With the Edit Pattern tool, click and drag the lower segment line, right-click the mouse, and enter a numerical value of 10 in the Moving Distance pop-up window. To create the top and both sides of the part that will cover the zipper, select the segment line, right-click, and select Offset Pattern Outline. This time, we will enter 10 millimeters. Delete unnecessary segment points using Edit Pattern. Attach it using free sewing. When sewing the side part, to join two patterns onto one pattern, select one pattern first, then press the Shift key to confirm that the seam line is activated in green. Select the remaining two patterns in turn and sew them. After selecting the pattern, right-click to apply Strengthen and Simulate. Right-click in the 3D window, click on Strengthen, select the bag side pattern and front pattern, and apply Strengthen to both. Select the completed zipper cover pattern and change the particle distance from 20 to 5. Change the pressure value to 0. Now let's make the pockets and pocket covers on the front. Select the internal rectangle tool and draw an internal rectangle on the front pattern. You can make it into a square shape by holding the Shift key on your keyboard. Using the Trace tool in the Edit Pattern window, click on the inner rectangle, right-click, and select Trace as Pattern to create a rectangular pattern the same as the internal rectangle. Select the pattern with the Transform Pattern tool, right-click to copy it, then right-click again and click Paste to duplicate the same pattern. Change the view mode in the 3D window to monochrome surface. Select the pocket patterns, flip them over with Flip horizontally, and then use the gizmo to place them where they will be attached to the front of the bag. The pattern above will be made into a pocket cover, and the pattern below will be made into a pocket. First, reduce the pocket flap by selecting the Edit Pattern tool. Right-click while dragging the mouse and use Moving Distance to reduce it to 40. For the pattern that will become the pocket, select the upper pocket area and press the down arrow key on the keyboard once to lower it by 10 millimeters. Next, select the segment lines on both sides and bottom of the pocket, right-click and select Offset as pattern outline. Set it to unfilled corner and set distance to 20. Delete unnecessary segment points using the Delete key. Attach with the free sewing tool. Modify the shape of the pocket cover with the Smooth Curve tool in the Edit Pattern window and right-click at the same time. Enter 40. Do this for both corners. Sew with free sewing. Click on all segment lines except the sewn line with the Edit Pattern tool. Then right-click and create an internal line segment with the Offset as internal line tool. Set distance to 10. Right-click and cut with Cut and Sew. Organize the patterns created with the Transform Pattern tool in the 2D window. Select the pattern with the Transform Pattern tool, right-click, apply Strengthen, and then Simulate. Select the pattern with the Transform Pattern tool, right-click, and unstrengthen. Change the particle distance value from 20 to 5 and simulate. Set the thickness with the additional thickness rendering value in the Property Editor window. Adjust the pocket cover border to 2 millimeters and set the inner pattern and pocket of the cover to 1. Using the Internal Rectangle tool, draw a rectangular internal line to attach the pocket and pocket cover. Right-click to copy, then right-click again and use Paste to create the same internal line on the pocket. With segment sewing, select the segment line and sew it. Simulate, check the shape in the 3D window and modify the size and position of the internal line using the Transform Pattern tool. Duplicate the internal line of the completed pocket on the left using the same method. Select the entire pocket pattern on the left with the Transform Pattern tool, right-click on it to copy it, then right-click on it and copy it with Mirror Paste to create it on the other side. Now we will create the right pocket using the same method. Sew the patterns using the MN Free Sewing tool. Now we will make the large pocket located at the top of the front of the bag in the same way. Let's attach the zipper. First, check the sewn size with the Edit Sewing tool. Add a segment point at the correct location using the Add Point Split Line tool in the Edit Pattern window. Right-click, change the length of split into two lines to 90, and then click the OK button. Add the other side in the same way. Use the Edit Sewing tool to select the sewn part of the area where you want to attach the zipper, and then press the Delete key to delete it. Simulate and immediately press the simulation key again to stop it and create a gap in the bag. Since it is difficult to select the inner surface, I will select the zipper from the menu bar of the 3D window and then click on it in the 2D window to create it. Considering the area where the zipper will be created, click a little way from the segment point. Click once more along the line, then double-click at the last position. You can see that the line has changed to black. Similarly, select the part where the zipper will be installed and double-click to finish. Once completed as shown in the 3D window, simulate to check whether the zipper is installed correctly. In the Property Editor window, change the puller shape to the desired shape. We will change the stopper to closed end. Next, click the zipper line in the 3D window to lower the particle distance in the Property Editor window to 10. You can see that the zipper is completed. This concludes part 1 of the school bag. In the next video, we will cover the finer details.